Hey, what's up? Andrew Kramer here for VideoCopilot.net, and welcome to another very exciting After Effects tutorial. We've got a huge lineup. We have Tana, Sam Loya, and if you look closely enough, we got Tino driving the truck. And I'm actually going to put this on a DVD for his reel. I think Lifetime is hiring for a couple of projects coming up, so definitely want to help him out. Okay, so it's no secret. Here's what we're going to be creating. Ooh, not good. Okay, so we've got a few things here. We've got the truck hitting Sam, and we've got the truck sort of buckling just a little bit, and we've got some glass shattering, and of course Sam is sort of falling over the hood. Now, we're going to take a look at a few different ways to mangle up Sam's poor body, but the more you get into it on the set, the better it's going to look in post-production, of course. And let's go and get started putting this shot together. I got to say, though, Tana did a great job. I mean, she doesn't even start laughing. She looks at Sam and has a straight face. I mean, just ridiculous. I can't even look at Sam for 2 seconds without just, losing it. Anyway, let's go and get started. I'm going to take our background plate footage, drop it onto a new composition. Here's Tana, and here's our shot. And this is the trick. You have the car driving by itself. Tana is sort of an extra element to make the shot just a little bit more realistic, to have sort of a foreground element. Now, you can also use footage of a car driving by itself. And, depending on what you want to do, all these techniques should translate just the same. So we have our shot here. Now we have Sam walking across the street. And what we've done is we have Sam in front of a partial green screen. And we're going to go ahead and time this up so we can get sort of the basic idea of the animation. So I'm going to hit T, bring the opacity down to 50%. And we'll just go forward here. And just when the car hits him, we're going to go ahead and slide it over so that he reacts just in time. I'm almost going to move it over just a bit there too. Okay, so now that we have that taken care of, we're going to go ahead and pre-compose Sam's footage. So I'll choose Layer, Pre-compose. We'll call this Sam Walking. And we're going to leave all attributes in this comp. Choose OK. And now if we Alt double click on this comp, we can edit the original footage. So what we want to do is start getting rid of the background. So I'm going to select the layer, take the pen tool, and draw a rough mask around the main part of the image. So here and here. Okay, so now we want to go ahead and get rid of the green around Sam. So I'll select our footage, choose Effect, Keying, and instead of going to Key Light right away, we're going to go to Color Key. And we're going to take the color, click in here, turn up the tolerance. Then we'll duplicate, edit, duplicate. Click on this brighter green, duplicate again, maybe the darker green here. And we want to just get rid of most of the green using multiple instances of the color key. The great thing about the color key, it renders very fast, and we can get rid of most of this rather quickly. So that's pretty good. Maybe one more for the dark green. We'll duplicate, click on that dark green. So now we've gotten rid of most of the green. Of course, the edges look horrible, but we're just creating a garbage mask around our actor. And then we can apply key light to this result. But before we do, let's choose Effect, Matte, Simple Choker, and bring this into the negative value. And so now we have a nice clean area to be able to apply key light. And as you can see, it's a really nice way to create a very fine garbage mask around our subject, and you can see it renders very fast. So now we'll choose Effect, Keying, Key Light. We'll take the screen color, click on the green here, and we'll go ahead and play with the settings. I'm not going to focus too much on key light, but just get it to where this looks good. Also make a new solid, sort of a grayish color, and we'll bring it down below our footage. And let's go down to key light. Let's turn up the screen gain to 105, and that's sort of the intensity in which to remove the color. and 105 will just help to make this look good. Go ahead, pre-blur, we'll set that to maybe 0.75, and that way we blur out the edges before we actually start keying. And with the DV and HD footage, it's a good idea to do that, or if your footage is grainy. And we'll bring the clip white amount down just a bit, and the clip black up also a little bit. Change the replace method to hard color, and that's just going to change the way the edges are blended together, because the source, you'll see a little bit of green spill around the edges, but the hard color sort of mixes this gray together and creates a nice tone to the edges. I'm also going to change the shrink amount to negative 0.25, and that just kind of shrinks the edges just a little bit. And now we can kind of scrub through, and you'll also notice it actually renders very quick now that the Key Light plugin doesn't have to process all of the green that's in the shot. So it kind of uses the result of these quick color key effects and only focuses on the edges. Okay, so the next part of the tutorial is probably the most time consuming. What we're going to do is rotoscope out his feet almost frame by frame, but I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks to make it a little bit easier. First, if we go into the render comp, we see we have a little bit more footage than we actually need. And so what we'll do is move forward and trim that footage down. And then go back into this comp and just Alt begin bracket. So just trim that in, and so we don't have to rotoscope anything past that point. Also, when the car comes, it's going to hit Sam, and he'll be out of the frame at this point. So we'll go to the end, again, Alt end bracket, or just bring it over, and now we don't have to rotoscope past that point. So really, we're just talking about maybe a second and a half at 24 frames per second, and that's not bad for a shot. That's going to look pretty cool. So what I'll do is I'll take this Sam walk footage, we'll call this top part, and I'll duplicate it, and we'll shut off the bottom copy, and this is going to be called feet. And then we need to make a copy of the feet. And before we do, actually hit M, delete the mask. And then I'm going to duplicate it, edit, duplicate. And here's the trick to sort of rotoscoping. First, set the work area. Hit B, move to the end, hit N, make sure at full resolution, and shut off this top layer. And then lock this bottom layer. So remember, these two layers are exactly the same. What we're going to do is render it out, so hit 0. And so now that we rendered it out, we can scrub through it in real time. And then if we take this top layer and apply masks to it, so if I come in here, we're going to go ahead and add a mask to his foot. And you want to focus on each leg at a time, and so we'll just draw a shape around this leg here. Click and drag allows you to create the Bezier corners. And just give it a good rough mask. And then hit M, keyframe the mask path. And then we can move around and keyframe the mask shape. So if we double click on it, we can move it all at the same time. You can actually rotate it. And of course, move the points individually. You can hold down Shift and select multiple points. Kind of a nice trick there. Page up allows you to cycle through the frames, and you just want to kind of get it pretty close. So just go through and change the mask shape for this period of time. And of course, if you don't have a green screen, you can also do this for the entire shot, but it just takes a little bit longer. But remember, you're only doing it for a very short amount of time. And once you're done with the left leg, go and take the pen tool and draw a shape around the right leg. And again, hit M, keyframe the mask shape, the path there, and we'll just move forward and keyframe these shapes by changing them over time. Remember, don't delete any of the points, otherwise that will kind of screw things up. And another cool tip is you can actually change the color of the mask, and that way you can see which mask is which. And you can also lock a mask and choose Layer, Mask, hide locked masks, and that way you can work on this one individually without getting in the way of the other mask. And likewise, that will work both ways. So go ahead, go through that, rotoscope those feet out, and we'll go and pick it up right after that. Okay, so now that we're done rotoscoping, we're going to go ahead and reintroduce some of the shadows. But first, let's take the locked layer and delete it and turn back on the feet layer. And then I'll hit F3 and we're going to shut off the simple choker effect. And that way we have cleaner edges. We can also feather the mask, hit F, maybe feather it 0.5 by 0.5. We'll go and turn on the top part. And so now we have the two layers sort of joining together, creating a single composite. Okay, so now we brought our feet back in. Let's go and bring back in a little bit of the shadow. I'm going to turn on our gray solid. We'll take our feet layer. We'll duplicate it, edit, duplicate. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to hit M, bring up the masks, hold down Shift and hit F. And so now we have our feathering. I'm going to increase the feathering. And if you look right here, you can see I'm bringing back in more of the original shot. And if I hit MM, I can also increase the expansion. So if I bring the feathering in just a bit, I can bring back more of the shot that way. And we'll also do that for the right leg. We'll set it to, say, 25 feather and bring the expansion out just a little bit. And remember, this layer is separate from this feet layer. In fact, we'll go ahead and solo it. And then I'm going to take our shadow layer, take the rectangle mask tool, and draw a shape right across this sort of horizon line where our green screen ends. And I'm going to subtract it, hit F, and feather it, and bring it down a little bit and feather it even a little bit more. And I'll make sure to put the shadow below the feet. And then duplicate that layer, Control D. And so what we're doing is just introducing the shadow right around the area of the feet only. And then if we go into the render comp, come over here, make sure the opacity is at 100, we can see that our shadow is now on the ground in this comp. And that's an important factor because we want to make sure that it looks like he's actually in the scene. Now, we do have one problem, and that's when the shadows from the car come in, we start having some intersecting shadows, and we need to sort of work that area out. But before we do that, what I'm going to do is pre-compose this comp. Layer, pre-compose, move all attributes, and we're going to call this Sam Composite. Now, here's our render comp, and it has the Sam Composite layer. Here's the Sam Composite. And then we have the Sam Walking, which is all of the layers individually. Now in the composite, what I want to do is go to right before he gets hit and delete a frame. Now, Sam's a great actor, but his reflexes are less than cat-like. So we're going to do Control-Shift-D, and that's going to slice the footage. And then we're going to cut it off, move it over, and so now we've deleted one frame. And what that does is makes it seem like it's very abrupt when he gets hit. So in the render comp, okay, so Sam's walking and the car comes and hits him in the back. Now we want to sort of fix this shadow area. So we'll go into the Sam Walking comp, and right here, we want to sort of remove some of this stuff. Now we're going to do that sort of globally. I'm going to do that by choosing Layer, New, Solid. And we'll make it just blue. Doesn't really matter what color. Shut it off. And we're going to just draw a shape around the subtraction part of the mask. And we'll turn that layer on. We'll hit F and feather it just a bit. Then we're going to change the transfer mode to Silhouette Alpha. And Silhouette Alpha will sort of remove anything that is, in this layer. And so then what we can do is animate this on and off essentially. So we'll hit M, MM, keyframe the path, and then we'll move this over, couple of frames and just feather a little bit more. And so as the car comes in this comp, we can sort of animate the mask away, and so that there's room for that shadow to come into the shot. Okay, so now we can start animating as Sam gets hit by a car. First, let's go and take the anchor point of the Sam composite layer and put it about at the middle of him where he gets hit. And then we're going to go ahead, create a new null object, and we're going to animate its position. So I'm going to hit P, set a keyframe, and actually let's move it maybe right here in the corner where the window meets. And we'll go ahead and animate it from before it hits him all the way through till he's out of the shot, and we'll bring it across just like that. Make sure that it lines up at these key points through the shot. I'm going to shut Sam off for a moment. And we'll just assume that it continues on. And I'm going to delete that. So that's sort of the basic animation of the car. Let's also create a mask for the front end of the car. So this is going to reintroduce the car over top Sam. And we'll create a new solid. And we'll make it orange for no reason at all. And we'll shut it off. And we're going to draw a shape that represents the front end of the car. So just follow it here. And that's the main gist of the car. We'll turn that on. We'll duplicate the background plate, and that's the shot with the car in it. Bring it up underneath the orange solid. We'll set the track matte to alpha matte. And so now that's going to take the transparency from our orange solid, feather that. Actually, cool thing about masks is you can feather them differently for the direction. So for the X direction, we'll do 12, and the Y we'll do maybe just 5. And that looks good. And so you can just see that that's a different element. And then we'll take the orange solid, parent it to the null object. And remember, the null object has our animation data on it. And so now the car follows. And what I want to do, I'll just bring that down so you can see it. And I want to make sure that my mask animates properly as the shot goes on. So I'm going to hit M, set a keyframe for the path. And we just want to make sure that we adjust this so that it looks a little bit better as the animation kind of goes through. That looks fine. Going back up here, and we'll just move that into position. And I'm just going to cycle through frame by frame, make sure we get this. So here starts to break away, and so we want to bring these points in a bit. Okay, so that's all we have to do to get that to work. And let's go and take our Sam composite. We'll turn that layer back on. And so now when the car comes and it hits him, the front end of the car is still, crushing his back. So now we'll take Sam, and right at the point of impact, so right there, we're going to hit Control-Shift-D, cut that layer in half. And then we'll take this, parent it to this null object. Okay, so we've kind of got a basic animation, but we need to time it up and make it look correct. So we'll take the layer, hit P, hit R, and we're going to keyframe the position and the rotation. Move forward. And we want to make sure his layer is sort of crushed into the car, just like that. And we're just going to adjust it. And we're also going to rotate it. Take the rotation tool, rotate it also, and make sure that it's really embedded in the hood. So when he gets hit, he kind of flips up onto the hood. and really gets crushed really good. And that's the idea. And then we can also turn on the motion blur. So turn the motion blur on for both the comps there. Let's go and take our car hit audio, bring it out, hit LL, and make sure that this big thud lines up with him getting hit. And let's go and take a look at things at this point. Okay. All right, so that looks pretty nice, and Sam gets hit and he flies out of the frame. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new solid. I'm going to call this glass. And let's make it green. And we'll choose Effect, Simulation, CC Particle World. And we're going to create some shattering, small pieces of glass. So we're going to set this to off, and we'll go into the options. Rendering, we want them to bounce, random at 20, spread maybe 15. And that way when they hit the ground, they're not just going to bounce at the same direction they were coming. They'll kind of randomly, bounce as if they were hitting an uneven surface, just like that. And we'll change the type of particle to tri-polygon, and we'll make them really small. So we want these to be little pieces of glass. We'll make it grayish blue, white, and that way it just looks like little pieces of glass. And then we'll come up here to the options again, and we'll make sure that the motion blur is on. And so that kind of gives him a little bit more realism. And then we're going to animate the position of the producer as well as, the amount of particles that are going to come out. So let's go half res real quick. Turn the birth rate down to 0. Set a keyframe for the position and the birth rate. And we'll move forward a frame. Turn up the birth rate. Not sure how much. Forward again, bring the birth rate down. So the particles are born and they kind of shoot out. Now we want to make a lot, so we'll turn that up to like 20. And then boom, so now you can see these little pieces fly out. We also want to make sure that these little pieces of glass, go with the vehicle. So at the point in time, we'll move the position, actually go here so we can actually see the particles. There they are. And we'll move the position over where it comes out of the vehicle. Come back here, slide this over. So there's our producer so that we can see it. This is going to be like headlight glass as it comes out. So I'm going to put it a little ahead of the car so that it just looks a little bit more real. And for the physics, turn on inherent velocity also, so that when they come out, they'll kind of shoot forward. That'll work okay for now. We'll choose off, go back to full res here. And we can just move the layer over so that it's kind of coming out of the correct position. We'll go ahead and add some more particles. Lots of glass. So that's sort of the gist of it. Create these particles. I'll go ahead and let you guys play with that and turn these up just a little bit bigger. And they bounce, and you can also increase the gravity so that they fall a little bit quicker. And you can turn the amount of particles down. So anyway, that's how you create the glass. I'll let you guys play with the settings to get that to look how you want. And then the other thing we want to focus on is the car smashing up as it hits Sam in the back. Now this is going to be pretty cool. What we're going to do is we have a picture of a hood that's kind of smashed up. So I think I found this on the internet for like crash testing and stuff. And I took the transparency by going into Photoshop and just painting out the white. And what we're going to do is drop this into a new comp all by itself. And what we're going to do is create a little mechanism out of this image. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and take the pen tool, and I'm going to draw a shape around that part. And we'll take the pan behind tool, and we're going to move the center point right here into the corner, and then we'll duplicate this again. Go ahead and delete that mask. And this time we're going to draw one around this shape. And again, we'll take the pan behind tool and move this right at that point. So now we've got two parts. Duplicate this again, and we'll go ahead and hit M, delete the mask, and we want to take everything but those two pieces. Okay, so now we have three pieces. We have the main, we have the top left, and the right. And what we want to do is take the right and parent it to the left. And we'll take the left, hit R, and then we're going to rotate it. We're going to rotate it down flush, essentially. Also, we want to put the main one on top. So it looks like this is working. So take the left one here. I'm going to rotate it so it looks like it's functioning correctly. And then we'll keyframe the rotation for this and the right layer, R. And I'll move forward here, and I want to rotate it up as it gets crunched. And as it gets crunched, I want the other layer to sort of rotate in. So we'll straighten this out also. And as it kind of gets crushed, this part's going to rotate down. So we're sort of creating a simple little mechanism that's going to hopefully make this look pretty nice. Now it's going to only be a couple of frames, so like maybe 4 frames, bring those keyframes in. We want this to be very quick, and we'll slide it over so that we have time to bring this on. And you know, you can rotate this more or less depending on how intense you want it to crash. And then we can turn the motion blur on for both these, and bring it in a little bit more, make this a lot quicker. And the other thing is we need to bring a little bit of black back into this, so we'll take, let's see, we'll duplicate this main, get the mask out of there. So just want to draw some of this black back in. And we'll put this, let's see, below the top left, and then parent it to the top left. The parenting is going to keep it connected. And so now that layer is going to move with the top part. And again, we'll take the right layer. We'll just okay, so with just a little bit of work, we created sort of this collapsing front end of the car. And so we'll take the hood PNG comp, close it, come back into here, bring that comp out, and I'll scale it down. I'll zoom in here, and we're going to fit it right into the shot. And we're going to parent it to our null object, and that's the null that has our animation. And we'll turn on the motion blur, and we'll color correct it. Let's do a quick color correction to match our scene. Go ahead and red channel, go to the blue channel here, and the green channel just to make sure it's tinted fully. So that just gets some of the color back in, and let's go and line up the animation so that it happens at the correct time. Okay, so we'll toggle the motion blur and sort of line this up. What we want this to do is line up with the separation line of the real hood. So right about here, maybe scale it up a little bit. And that way when it hits, so right at this point, right, start it there, it starts to crunch into his back some. So that's the key to this shot. And then we'll take the mask tool and we'll feather it in so it sort of blends a little nicer. Feather this out, subtract. And we'll also fade it in just over that one frame period. So we'll hit T, bring the opacity down, go forward, and we'll bring the opacity up. And the nice thing is once the motion blur is on, you won't really see it fading on. So it'll be kind of an illusion, but the hood will sort of crack open and sort of smash into him. And you know, any of the color correction that you want to do to get this to match will be helpful. Also, I'll take our glass layer here, trim it so it starts right there during the impact. Okay, let's go and take a look. So Sam gets hit. You can see we got little pieces of glass settling on the ground. And overall, the shot looks nice. You could, of course, add some camera shake at the time of impact. We've got a tutorial and a preset for that. Check out the HDR earthquake tutorial to create a cool camera shake effect. Now, I am using After Effects CS3. And, of course, you can follow along with this tutorial in 6.5 and 7. But if you're in CS3, there's actually a new feature called the Puppet tool. I'm going to go ahead and take our Sam footage, shut it off, and come back to right here. I'm going to move this over, and what I'm going to do is hit Control-Shift-D and cut off another copy of that layer. And then I'm going to go ahead, right-click, choose Time, Freeze Frame. And I'm going to freeze it right at the point of impact. And so now we just have a still frame. And if I parent that to the null object, it'll kind of scoot out of the frame. Now, that looks pretty good, but what we can do is take the Puppet tool, and there's these three features. You have the Pin tool, the Overlap tool, and the Starch tool. So the Pin tool allows you to stick pins into key spots of your puppet, in this case Sam. So you do need transparency. So I'm going to do one in the head, and we'll add one, say, to the middle of him here, and one for his legs. The Starch tool sort of gives you, if we click on Show Mesh, allows you to kind of freeze an area so that when you move a pin, and that way this area will be stiffer when I move the other pins around it. Okay, so we've added our pins, and the cool thing about the Puppet tool is that it creates a keyframe automatically. So if I hit U, come down here, we can see we have 3 position keyframes for our Puppet tool. And what I can do is unsolo that layer. I can move forward here, and I can sort of animate Sam getting crushed by the hood. And I can just move these around. Really embed him into the vehicle here. And the great thing about the Puppet tool is it has motion blur. So if we turn the motion blur on for that layer, and we kind of preview this, you can see a very interesting and intricate kind of animation as he gets hit by the car. So check it out. Bam. So that's one of the great features of the Puppet tool is that ability to manipulate. Okay, and as always, if you're going to do these effects, be careful. People can still get hurt even though you're doing visual effects. You can't have cars driving down the street really fast, so just be careful. And at the very least, use people you don't like just in case somebody gets hurt. And of course, if you need any help, check out the website. We have the After Effects Basic Training, which is a free series, teach you how to use After Effects. And we've also got great products and bundles. We have the new DVD called The Bullet. So if you want some more advanced training, integrating 3D with After Effects, including Cinema 4D, 3D Studio Max, and of course Blender, which is a free 3D program that's very powerful. Check out the Bullet DVD on sale now. And of course, by supporting us, we can keep making these great video tutorials, so be sure to check our products out. We have some great plugins and some great tools for designing and compositing. So, hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. I'm Andrew Kramer for VideoCopilot.net, and we'll see you next time.